Sekeres and Price for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, coming to you from the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. Extend your game night with a staycation in downtown Vancouver. Book a Sekeres and Price rate exclusively. Sekeres and Price rate here at the Wall. Call the hotel 604-331-1000. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches, conducting things. Big show coming up as the Canucks finish their season opening road trip in Chicago against the Blackhawks. Blackhawks are coming home for a Saturday showdown against Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
They're playing. Everybody's playing.
Mm-hmm.
A frenzy of action.
More on that in a moment. But first, the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. What is most compelling about a Canucks Blackhawks game? Old rivalries? Connor Bedard, the North Shore prodigy? A likely win, and it has been that for the Canucks for the last little while. More on that. Or if something else, vote other. Specify in reply. I ask you, Blake Price.
None of the above?
That's other.
Yeah. I guess
you don't find anything compelling about Canucks Hawks these days?
I don't. And I think, as great as Bedard can be.
How is that? How are you not voting Bedard?
Because I think the chances.
You're tired of him?
No, I just think the chances of tuning in to see a young player dominate and take over a game you're not going to see that Bedard is not yet at the level where he is a legitimate
must-see TV,
a legitimate risk of taking over a game and being dominant and being
what?
Yeah, oof, I don't think we're there.
No, I mean, he's certainly not a fully formed, polished superstar.
That's it. He'll be there in
I
2
think
years.
He's well on his way.
Yeah, for sure.
I still like the novelty factor of him, though. In fact, he missed a game last year. Remember, with that broken jaw against the
Canucks. I'm not saying I'm not watching tonight. I'm just saying I'm not feeling like, holy cow, if the PVR breaks.
Yeah,
this is gonna be the worst day of my life. No, I would get over it.
I voted old rivalries. I'm a bit of a nostalgist, but the 3 straight years in the Stanley Cup playoffs between these two teams,
Duncan Keith is not coming out of that tunnel.
The buildup of hate, animosity, the interplay between the two fan bases. In some cases, the interplay between the Hawks fan base and Canucks management in the suite at United Center.
That's right.
Remember.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just something about these two crests going up against each other that I find compelling. And you can even, take it back to Towel Power and Roger Nielsen, right? Depending on how old a Canucks fan you are. So I love seeing these two crests go back and forth, even if, yes, we're long past the heyday of the rivalry. I also could have easily cast the vote for Bedard as well. Love watching him play hockey. Agree with you that he's not yet at McDavid, Sidney level. I think he's going to get there. And look, as we'll take you through it here in a bit, this is a better Hawks team as well, I think, this year. They have been in the doldrums. They have been the free space on a bingo card, but I don't think that's the case anymore. And I think the Canucks better be ready to play tonight. The poll question brought to you by Surrey Mitsubishi, where it's your last chance to take advantage of specials on 2024 models. I'm driving the 2024 Outlander Hybrid PHEV, and I absolutely love it. So smooth. I've got ample space in that cockpit, Blake. As you know, I'm a big guy. Both ways. So plenty of space. It's a beautiful vehicle. You can get a $1,000 credit towards winter tires. Interest rates as low as 1.99%. No charge. Extended warranty valued at $3,750 and EV rebates up to $7,500. And at Surrey Mitsubishi, the first 6 months of insurance is on them. See dealer for details while supplies last. And we were telling you this because these 2024s nearly sold out. Surrey Mitsubishi, 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey. Online, surreymitsubishi.ca.
both ways? Like, who do you think you are, Arnold Palmer? Like, what do you mean?
Oh my. Never in my wildest did I think that Arnold Palmer's manhood would be an issue in an election like 10 years after his death.
No, nor
I'm
anyone
sure
else.
all the honor. I'm sure our buddy Al Chris Manson up at the Whistler Golf Club, the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, and everyone who counts themselves a member of Arnie's army, and there would still be legions. Remember, he kept every single piece of fan mail he got and responded to it. The Arnold Palmer Company, he was extraordinary at that, connecting with people. I when I first saw that online, I was like, no, this has got to be some sort of farce. No,
we should
reality.
be very clear about the restaurant at the Whistler Golf Club. It's called Palmer's Gallery. That doesn't mean you see pictures of that stuff there. It's referring to the crowd at a golf tournament. That's the gallery. For the other Palmer Gallery, that would be
goodness,
somewhere in a closet.
I would like Arnold Palmer is still like revered in golf circles. Does that not alienate some of your base? Because let's face it, I would have to think some of his base is rich golf guys, right? Talk about that, about the king.
Oh my goodness. We are off the the
top
track
story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing. Neighborhood Brewing. Yellow Dog Spirits and Foolish Winery. They're getting healthier. JT Miller
/ more injured, depending on what side you're looking at.
Well, JT Miller is officially a game time decision.
Yes,
but let's hear from Coach. You tell me how this sounds. Here's talking.
Yeah, he looks like a probable. I mean, we'll do a game time, but we'll see how he is. I'll talk to him later today.
He did skate before his teammates. That probable is the first word out of Talkett's mouth, and that he's going to talk to him later. You think JT's not playing? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the question for me just is like, so he can play, but he's probably not going to take draws. It doesn't sound like.
More on that in a second.
So, like, what are we looking at here? What does that JT Miller look like? Being engaged physically is a big part of JT Miller's game.
Well, I think we're potentially talking about JT Miller on the wing, but more on that in a second. Frank Saravelli echoing what Darren Dreger told us yesterday, Dakota Joshua, 1 to 2 weeks away. Here's Coach on Joshua.
Yeah, I think today's going to be another kind of a hump day. He's going to do some pushing and shoving on the ice today with our guys. I don't know exactly the date, but obviously he's getting closer and closer, and he's starting to ramp up his mental aspect of I got to be ready here. And I think that's the big key. I think maybe a week ago, kind of in a rut, but I think he's getting over that rut right now where it's getting close. I just think he's matured as a guy in the sense that he knows what he has to do over the last couple of years till now, and I watch him on the ice. He's just ramping up more. He's a big part for a guy that can win battles in the corners and PK guy and in front of the net. That's the thing that we were really looking for when he gets back.
So he's going to have some contact. He's upping his mental preparation. Interesting, a rut a week ago. I wonder if that's just they're not allowing me to do more, blah, 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 or if it was, more on the mental side.
I mean,
but that Talkett goes on and talks about his maturity now, that he understands what he has to do. And you're absolutely right. You do miss him in the corners. He was an effective puck retrieval and forecheck guy. You do miss him as a front of the net goal scorer, and you certainly miss him on the penalty kill as well.
I do wonder about the mental aspect of it. I mean, even treatable cancer, I think, gives you that your mortality,
for sure.
Thoughts are swirling in your head, so I'm sure there's a bunch of exhales that he's had to do to sort of get ready for this, but hopefully he's feeling good.
And then there's Thatcher Demko, who Saravelli had on video on the ice today in Chicago. And, unless
those are resistance bands, by the way, that the coach is pulling on him. So, he's trying to strengthen something.
And we haven't seen him on the ice. Now, it doesn't mean he hasn't taken to the ice on this road trip, but we hadn't seen him on the ice. And, of course, talking a couple of days ago saying he's skating occasionally.
Yeah.
So I think this is a positive sign as well.
Yeah, I mean,
that because his teammates were still there. He wasn't working out with his teammates, but that he was out there in or close to morning skate for the eyes of everybody is probably progress as well on the thought.
Well, at the very least, it's not a step backward. If he's doing that, it means that he's at least still in the realm of being back. Again, this is apropos. What did Darren Dreger tell us? That we're halfway to the 4 weeks that he had suggested,
and he said it's looking a little closer to the further end, the 4 week side.
So 2 to 3, maybe something like that. And I think 1 to 2 is what Frank Saravalli and Darren Dreger were saying for Dakota Joshua. So, a little bit closer.
Now, I know our friends Mike and Melinda Coghill will be at the BCSPCA Gala this weekend supporting a cause that Yellow Dog has long championed. But what else are they up to these days, Mr. Price?
The Squirrel Chaser's a party pleaser.
I bought a 4-pack on the weekend.
Did you? Yeah. It's great beer.
It was on sale.
It's a do everything. It is on sale, no matter if you're looking at the government or the private liquor store. So check it out right now. The tall can 4-packs on special for the month of October.
It's a beautiful can. Nice shade of green.
Kind of Christmassy.
Indeed. Yeah. Okay, so you asked about JT Miller and faceoffs. And if you didn't see the game on the weekend or didn't hear, JT took the opening faceoff. He looked in some kind of pain. He would later go on to take a second faceoff, and then that was that. They kept him out of the faceoff dot from that point forward. Brock Besser, Jake DeBrusk, combinations of wingers, and the other centermen taking more than the usual amount of draws was the way they got through the game in a 3-0 victory. He leads the Vancouver Canucks in faceoff percentage at 61.1%. On 90 draws. We know he has been a sensational faceoff guy for them since getting here. Number 2 on that list is Aatu Räty at 60.9%, just 23 draws, but we also heard the young man talk about how he's got a bit of a hack in the faceoff dot, takes it reverse-handed on the right-hand side as though he was a right shooter. And then you get to the other guys who have taken faceoffs for the Canucks this year. Elias Pettersson's at 49% on 65 draws. Teddy Bluger's at just under 49%, 48.7% on 76 draws. Nils Aman, we say he can play center, and he can, but he just can't take faceoffs. He's 41.7% there. They, of course, also have Pius Suter, if they require Pius Suter to play in a center ice role, or at the or to just take the faceoff. There's that as well, right? Because some of you might be old enough to remember that was it 3 years ago or 4 years ago where Miller would take the draw and then flip on over, and Petey would basically play center ice. So there's different ways to go about hacking it there, and we'll see what they come up with today. Incidentally, Pius Suter winning 55.6% of his draws, but on a very, very low total. Is there a ticket for Aatu Räty back to this club because of his ability to take faceoffs?
I think that's a part of it, and I still think there's some lackluster offensive play from some players in the top 12 right now, top 13 as well. So I think there's spots to be won back. I think we'll see what happens after this game, because when they come home, and Abbotsford's coming home for their home opener, there's going to be bodies around, and the world's going to be the oyster for Canucks management and coaches to decide what they want to do. So I think we'll see what that Miller prognosis looks like. We were told yesterday, not serious, whatever it is. They expect it to be better, fully better sometime very soon. So they don't need to make a panic decision on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Aatu Räty's back.
Lackluster production, you say, and look, nobody is skewering these players. It is early in the season. Some of them are new. Some of them haven't played all 5 games. Some of them have been bounced around the lineup already. But 2 points and 5 for Heinen, 2 points and 5 for Paterson, 1 point and 4 for Suter, 1 point for Oman, 1 point for Sprong, no points for Arshdeep Baines. One of those things is not like the other, though.
Right.
That would be number 40. And I know you were looking at stretches for Elias Pettersson last year.
Yeah, because, sometimes with starts, people get distracted by the fact that because it's the start, you don't have anything in the bank that makes it look better. Meanwhile, you go 2 points in 5 games in the middle of December, it doesn't look as bad because you've already banked your 30-odd points up until that point. Well, this is pretty rarefied stuff, especially if Paterson doesn't get a point tonight. Last year, there was one stretch, and it really wasn't even close. Like, he didn't really flirt with this at all. One stretch where he had 2 points in 6 games.
Playoffs notwithstanding, or playoffs?
I did not look at the playoffs. I'm just looking at the regular season. And that was actually 5 pointless games. He had a 2-point effort versus Calgary during that stretch in late February into March. Late March into April. 5 pointless games around that 2-point game. So that was it. But we knew he was struggling there. This is starting to look like that, of course. And if it goes beyond tonight, then he is officially in a drier spell than anything we saw last year, which included a second half that we all know was pretty lackluster. He struggled to get points in the second half. So if it's not tonight, it certainly has to be on the weekend, or he's officially in a bigger slump than anything we saw last year.
Yeah, it was 2 points in 5 games against the Oilers in the postseason. He had assists in games 6 and 5 and was shut out in games 7, 4, and 3.
But it was 2 points in 6 overall. Stretching back over between the two series, there was a stretch of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 points in 7 in the no. Pardon me, I missed the goal. Missed the goal.
Yeah, he had a power play goal in game 2 against the Oilers.
Yeah.
And of course, still tracking towards half a full season without an even strength goal.
Yeah,
for Elias Pettersson. So
yeah.
You wonder, okay, this is a younger Hawks team. Will they have trouble defending? We wondered that about Philadelphia. He did contribute, but whether or not this is a game that sets up for him to break out, or at very least dent the score sheet to a greater degree than he has dented it.
But never mind sets up, Matt. Like, this is a game where they need him. Like, if Miller's not at 100%.
100%, Blake. You're so right.
Like, they need him to step up. This is your
moment.
They
may need him for a stretch of games here if Miller is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Miller at 85% still going to be a decent player. But he's not going to be Miller.
Yeah.
So this is the time where you, as Elias Pettersson, as the $11 million man, need to be there.
And let me build off that by saying, is tonight the night for Coach Tocchet and Yogi? You get an offensive zone draw on the left-hand side. You say to DeBrusk or Besser, hey, we're going to play Elias. He's going to take this draw and put him with JT. See if you can kickstart some of that offense by going the old Alain Vigneault route, giving him those preferential shifts that start with an offensive zone faceoff, particularly on his strong side. I wouldn't
mind seeing that. If it's low scoring and like everybody's skating in mud a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Nils Höglander, running mate with Elias Pettersson quite often in his National Hockey League career. Coming off a goal against the Philadelphia Flyers, and he was not on that list that we talked about of guys who are not yet performing offensively. He's got 3 points in 5 games. This slipped under the radar a little bit. He played 1637 of even strength hockey against Florida. It's the most he's played of even strength hockey in a game since his breakout rookie campaign in the North Division. You may remember the bubble back in 2021. He came back and played 1354 of even strength time against the Philadelphia Flyers. At this time last year, we were wondering, is Höglander done being a healthy scratch? And it turned out he wasn't quite done because he had a healthy scratch in the regular season, and then the postseason, we all know what happened there. Wasn't great. But does it look to you like Nils Höglander has taken the next necessary step, is now permanently out of the doghouse, and can be trusted with playing a regular shift regardless of the game situation by Coach Tocchet?
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 minutes better average time on ice overall from what he was averaging last year. So, yeah, he's certainly winning that. To me, the interesting thing for Nils Höglander is, I mean, he's always been a good producer at even strength. Is he going to continue to get special teams time on top of the even strength time, because the fact that he's been used at even strength, that would track. Even he was such a good even strength producer last year. Does he continue to get the coach love on the special teams? And obviously that means the power play for a guy like him. That's going to be equally as interesting to me. So, he's going to be using a lot of that power play time to get the time up anyhow. But how much we'll see.
And it's interesting because, look, Miller missed practice yesterday. So this could be all jumbled because of that. Or if for whatever reason, Miller's ability to play power play, or at least play in the spot that he is accustomed to playing. Did you see how they practiced power play yesterday? Arshdeep Bains is the net front guy. Besser in the bumper. Garland in Miller's spot. Paterson and Hughes in their spot. And the other thing that was odd to me about that is DeBrusk was down on power play too, in the Paterson spot, with Höglander as the net front guy, Heinen in the bumper, Sprong on the left flank, and Hronek at the back. Now, again, Miller missed practice, so that could be a complete function of JT not being there and having all sorts of a
trickle-down effects,
domino effect with other people. I do find it interesting that DeBrusk would go bump down, though, out of the bumper.
Yeah. They usually just have a placeholder, but there's actually been a shuffle.
I mean, it may be that they don't want Brock in the right-handed shot in the Miller spot. And so it was, sorry, Jake, Brock's going in the bumper, but then why wouldn't DeBrusk be the net front guy? Or why not just leave DeBrusk and leave? Anyways. So it could be a little bit different on the man advantage unit tonight. We shall see. I mean, and Bains over Höglander as the net front guy, so very odd.
Like I wonder, like, is JT Miller's injury to the point where they don't think he can step into one timers? That you don't think they can take a proper shot skating downhill? So he's actually just going to be off the power play.
Like if it's a left hand injury. And it looked like it was the left hand or arm, wrist, finger, who knows, something in there that was giving him discomfort. Does that so compromise his ability to shoot the puck at
which point he'll be Andrew Castles tonight?
Well, that's it. Like effectively he becomes a decoy tonight if that's the case, Blake.
And a setup guy to some degree.
Yeah. Thus the Andrew Castles drop.
But that'll be interesting.
You see Andrew Castles play hockey. Wow. Could he pass?
Good setup, man.
He saw the ice. He got the puck to the right people in the right places a whole lot. I watched him play junior where he was an exceptional player.
I got a better one. And
then moved into the NHL where he was a very crafty playmaker.
Well, the ultimate one is Adam Oates. That's the ultimate setup.
Of course it is.
But a good deep cut is Craig Janney.
Yes, Craig Janney is kind of Adam Oates light.
Yes.
He was in St. Louis. He was in Boston like Oates.
Yeah.
Not quite as good as Oates. Now, of course, wasn't feeding pucks to Brett Hull as often either. No. Who could really shoot it and score some goals. Okay. This Blackhawks team. And actually, Mike, let's first run the graphic here from JPAT. Do we have that there? Jeff Paterson, who, as you know, is going to go digging in the crates. 7 straight wins for the Canucks over the Blackhawks. They've won 10 of the last 11. And they've outscored the Hawks 25-10.
Yeah, not a lot of goals
on
there.
the 7-game win streak. So they have dominated the Blackhawks. They are making up for Duncan Keith and his dirty elbow.
In those 11 games, 3 shutouts, 3 1-goals against. So 6 times it's been 1 goal or less.
Bottom line, it has been a cakewalk against the Hawks here of late. They've dominated them over several years. Coach Luke Richardson in Chicago. He's made Philip Kurashev a healthy scratch tonight. Kurashev had 54 points for the Hawks last year. Usually their second-line centerman.
18 goals, 54 points.
That is a message early in the season. Now, as Blake always says, that could be a cut your nose off despite your face move from coach. Or maybe it gets everybody's attention. Ilya Mikheyev, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He has found his way to Chicago. He is a Blackhawk. And we anticipate he is going to skate on a line with another former Canuck, Jason Dickinson, who has been pretty good since the Canucks paid a draft pick to get out of him.
The revenge line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to think that Mikheyev is pretty motivated tonight, right? Like, this is a team that basically said, you're not going to remember Alvin? You know, it was my mistake to think that Ilya Mikheyev was a top 6 winger. That's not on Ilya. That's on me.
Mm-hmm. Which almost feels worse if you're really
really exactly what Gilman told us last Wednesday. Hey, they acknowledged their mistake. You know, they ate some.
You were a
they
mistake.
ate some crap. They ate some crap to move Mikheyev on.
But in them having integrity,
well,
they're pointing at the player, going, "You were a mistake."
You would have to think if the guy's got a pulse, he's got a chip on his shoulder here tonight, right?
I mean, you say that to your kids, but you don't say that to a hockey player.
Early season, so understand this is a small sample. Blackhawks, 5-on-5 expected goals, 51.1%. It's 14th in the league. It's mid-pack. That's an improvement for them. Power play expected goals created, Chicago, 10.7 per 60. That's 4th in the NHL. That Bedard kid and this power play, it's going to get some looks. You give it chances, it's going to threaten. And then the flip side on special teams. I always want to say specialty teams because of the French coaches in the league that forever called it specialty team, including our boy AV. Penalty kill expected goals allowed, 6.1 per 60. That's 11th in the NHL. So this is a team that, again, in a small sample, is showing some signs on special teams and is mid-pack right now on expected goals at even strength. I would, long way to say, Blake, I would proclaim that this is a better Hawks team than the one that they have destroyed over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, everybody grows up. Everybody has a renaissance. And I think that they are going to be a better team. Hey, they are merely average in terms of the bottom line so far this season at 2-3-1. They are a -3 goal differential. Neither good nor bad.
That's all improvement for the Hawks.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like 5 points out of a potential 12 is better than what they've been doing.
And yet, if you are the Vancouver Canucks and fashion yourself to be at least a reasonable facsimile of the 109-point team from last year, still a team you should be taken down tonight.
Well, and particularly because I would have to think that Kevin Lankinen wants to show the Blackhawks the thing too as well. Right now, he's played a lot of games against them as an Nashville Predator, same division. But Lankinen, the way he has talked about the confidence that he feels and his appreciation for this opportunity, how at home he already feels in front of these Canucks skaters, and as Blake is pointing out, they haven't actually done the greatest job in front of you, Kevin, and yet he's sitting there glowing in each and every interview about his lot in life as the Canucks, well, now starter, and one would suspect backup when Thatcher Demko gets healthy. So he feels great about his situation. It reminds of DeSmith last year, who was just over the moon to be here.
He still might want to strut his stuff as sort of the de facto number 1, though. He's never really had the mantle. We talked about the fact he hasn't played back-to-back games since he was a Hawk. He's playing back-to-back games. So, I think he wants. I think it would feel pretty good. But who wins out, the revenge line or the revenge goalie?
I don't know. That's why you watch the games, Blake.
So compelling.
Maybe that's your compelling reason.
There you go.
Which revenge will float to the surface?
Yeah.
It's a 5:15 start tonight, everybody. And you may say to yourself, that's weird. Why is it 7:15 Central Time in Chicago? Or they got some sort of pregame ceremony? Or no. Welcome to Frozen Frenzy. We've seen this in years past. 16 games tonight featuring all 32 NHL teams for the one and only time all season. puck drop every 15 minutes across 13 games over a 3-hour span from 3:30 Pacific to 6:30 Pacific. 7.5 hours of continuous hockey bookended by an ESPN triple header. That's why just the one game last night. That's why just the one game tomorrow. 16 games, 32 teams, and the Canucks and Hawks have drawn a 5:15 start or 7:15 locally in Chicago, which frankly is
pretty reasonable.
Is a reasonable draw.
Yeah.
I mean, you're within a few minutes of when a game would normally start, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to some other teams who might be looking at a much more peculiar start time.
Well, I mean, except is the 5:15 the equivalent of what a normal 7 o'clock? Because when you say a game starts at 7, it's actually 7:08. So is 5:15 5:23 or is it 5:15?
It may be 5:23.
Exactly.
Do you like this?
Frozen Frenzy? I like Frozen Frenzy. I think you could do it more. I don't know that it needs to be reserved for October 22nd. Like, you're doing it at a time where you still haven't permeated the brain of every, like, even our fan base here in Vancouver. I don't think people are in Canuck frame of mind yet. They've only been at home for 2 games here. I think you need a 5-game homestand before you're officially in the consciousness again of the fan base.
And as you always say, Blake, those 4 p.m. weekday starts, which we saw 2 of them in Florida last week.
Yeah.
They're games that almost don't exist for a lot of Canuck Nation because you're unable to see them or consume them as you normally would.
The diehards, our viewers, they probably do.
Sure.
They probably do see them, but
there's a lot of casuals who are working or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So I would love to see this when everybody's sort of in hockey mode, but this is the last time they do it this year. So.
Yeah. I'll say this about it. I'm pleased that they've gone on a day where there is no NFL football and there's no World Series game. I think that works to their benefit.
And how many NBA games in the opening night?
Yeah, that would be the one that's not quite as dovetaily, but yes, there are. Is it just it's 2? Just the 2 tonight.
So that's pretty safe too.
Well, except they're
the big name.
They're meat on the bone games. It's Knicks, Celtics, it's Timberwolves, and the
was that the
LeBron,
the Lakers, Lakers, maybe. Yeah.
So, but look, what's the crossover between basketball and hockey fans?
Not much.
There's some. There's certainly some.
Yeah.
Like a lot of hockey fans in Minnesota. Are you watching the Wild tonight, or are you watching your Timberwolves, who have a pretty good team in Los Angeles? Celtics, Bruins fans, how fixated are you on the hockey team tonight when the Celtics are raising a banner against their old foes, the New York Knicks? So I would imagine you have some bleed there. I would also imagine that hockey is going to get a good number of eyeballs on both sides of the border on these 16 games. And particularly if you're the hockey fan who loves watching out of market days, I mean, fill your cup. Today is your Christmas. Rest in peace and condolences, sympathies to the friends and family of Mo LeMay, former Vancouver Canuck who played parts of 6 NHL seasons in Vancouver. He was an original draft pick of the Canucks 5th round in 1981 after a spectacular career with the Ottawa 67s of major junior hockey. He was traded to the Edmonton Oilers, wound up winning a Stanley Cup there with the Oilers in 1987, 345 NHL games, including the postseason, 279 with the Vancouver Canucks, and just 62 years old. So a very sad story there. Canucks alumni reporting the news. And again, our condolences and sympathies to everyone who knew and loved Mo LeMay, former Vancouver Canuck.
Speaking of that, he would have been under the tutelage of Brian Kilray there in Ottawa, who celebrated his 90th yesterday?
Yes. No, this week.
This week? Okay.
Yes. 90th, still going strong, still smokes cigars, still drinks beer, even though his wife would prefer he not.
At 90, I think you can do what you want.
Yeah, and once upon a time, we wondered, would Don Hay take a run at Kilray's record for major junior victories, of course, with his illustrious history here with the Vancouver Giants and the Kamloops Blazers. But yes, LeMay would have played under the legend Brian Kilray with those 67s. Okay, let's get to today's menu, where we have Cam Robinson and John Shannon on the show. Also talk some Whitecaps as well as they head into Portland for their huge single elimination wildcard match, MLS postseason against the Timbers in Portland, sadly. We asked John not only about this frozen frenzy thing with all his background and experience of broadcasting hockey, but also a column that dropped this week from Jonas Siegel, who runs the Toronto Sports Media blog and podcast, where he just lays it on the line that he finds Hockey Night in Canada boring now. Doesn't think there's any innovation. Thinks the American presentations of hockey are superior to Hockey Night. And of course, John, is the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, knows the history of that program, knows the ins and outs of what they have to do each and every Saturday intimately. So a terrific conversation with John, frankly, today on the evolution of hockey broadcasting and Hockey Night in Canada, and where it might be behind other broadcasts now, and what it still does very well. The menu brought to you by Greta. Greta's your spot for all games, home and away. We'll be there with Canucks Army viewing parties all season long. Had the first one on Saturday. Fantastic turnout. Thank you to everyone who showed up. Your minutes from the arena or the stadium, pregame, postgame. They got the street food menu there. The smash burger is to die for. The arcade, always very popular. Weekly drink specials. Greta, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, and a Greta bar. Let the games begin. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day, Blake. And didn't do very well yesterday.
No?
Yeah, I'll be chasing it today. Where are you going?
I'm going to go to the Canucks game, and I'm going to go on the under. I think at this point, the Vancouver Canucks is trying to finish off a road trip strong. The last thing that they're going to be doing is playing footloose and fancy free. I think they are going to play lock it down, simple hockey. JT Miller can't be that much of an offensive force in this one. So I'm taking the under 6 at -120.
Yeah, I looked at that as well, but decided I would go with a more villainous pick.
Oh.
Well, Coach Richardson may well have their attention, benching his second-line centerman. You talked about Miller and the injury. How effective will he be?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the Hawks underlying numbers being decent. 2x Canucks on that one line. You'd think McKayb's motivated. Vancouver's dominance in this series, something bound to end sometime, perhaps on the final night of a road trip after the boys get a little big for their britches with consecutive victories and are eager to get home. It's a better Hawks team, and I'm getting +150 for a straight-up win.
Whoa.
So I like the value there as well. I'm going to take Chicago tonight on home ice. Top end the Canucks with open an account with what?
No, go ahead.
Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code VANBONUS when opening that account. Cam Robinson coming up next.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
There's some price from the historic Wall Center.
And the weather is changing. I think we can all agree on that after the weekend we just had. We are officially into comfort food season. My words.
Soups.
Chicken pot pies.
Oh, yes.
Home-style pot roast, braised beef burger. Are you salivating? It's the White Spot Comfort Menu, folks. And it's available now at your favorite local White Spot. Go check it out. Literally like wrapping yourself up in a robe and sitting by the fire. Just by looking at the menu. That's what conjures up immediately in the mind. It's all at White Spot right now. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal. Visit your local White Spot today.
Let's bring in the director of content for Elite Prospects. I'm sure he's been to a white spot or two across this province, Mr. Cam Robinson. How you doing, Cam?
I'm doing well. I have. I was there with my daughter just a couple weeks ago having a pirate pack, her first of her career.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
You could have used that boat that it comes in over the course of the weekend, probably. Yes.
Right. Better than a skimboard anyways.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Cam, the Canucks have a starting goaltender. His name is Kevin Lankinen. Your thoughts on the work from this fellow after being a late addition to the club?
What a find, hey? He's playing lights out. We talked about it last week there. He's stolen the crease and it's his for now until Demko comes back. I mean, he got a little bit lucky there in Philadelphia. I think that he made a ton of great saves, but they kind of missed on some really high-end opportunities, especially in that third period when they were pressing. But I mean, as of today, I believe he still leads the entire NHL in 5-on-5 save percentage with like a 970s mark. Like he's been excellent. He's been great at high danger chances. He looks calm. He looks confident. When they signed him, the kind of the word around the campfire was that this is a student of the game. He really takes great pride in how he prepares and sets himself up, and that's showing here early on. Now, granted, it is very early on in the season, and you can't expect this level of play to continue forever. But it looks like a great find for Alvin and company there to kind of find that stopgap for Demko, and he's going to keep starting until he doesn't win or doesn't play out.
The other thing about him, Kevin Woodley mentioned this in the summer that, he looked really good by the Clearsight analytics and the work that goes on now with analytics and goaltenders, some of it from Mr. Valiquette there, the former NHLer. Do we have better tools available to us these days, Cam, to be able to identify the next breakout goaltender, despite the smaller samples of being a backup goalie?
I think that, excuse me, I think that with you'll take all the information you can, right? And so with the advanced stats that we have, with them breaking down, where's the shot coming from on the ice? How is he recovering, getting back into position, those second, those third chance opportunities, every little bit of information is going to help in giving you the best chance of finding that next breakout goaltender. But it's such a volatile position. Even the very best in the world, right? They get on a hot streak and they look unbeatable for 3 months. And then all of a sudden, a couple of bad games, maybe something's going on in their personal life and everything kind of goes off the rails. So when you're dealing with these like high level athletes, that's why so many of them have, mental coaches, and you see it, kids at 14, 15 years old, they're having those as well now, is because it's such a mental game, especially in net. I could never do it. I let in 8 goals the one time I tried it and I never went back in. I wasn't for me, because you're that last line of defense. And even if the whole thing has nothing to do with you and it leads to grade A scoring chances and you give one up, that is on you. So I think that you take all that information that you can, and I think that as we evolve with our analytics, it will provide little incremental value upgrades for you to make those guesses. But again, it's still, I still do believe that it's a voodoo position.
Now, he is the last line of defense, and he is playing like that right now, and they are playing like that in front of him. It's still not a perfect 10 from the skaters. How close do you think they are? Do you see them getting better? They're getting wins, but I mean, a lot of this could be on goaltending here. What do you think of the play in front of Kevin Lankinen right now?
Yeah, I thought, especially that Philadelphia game, I think that they took the crowd out of it early. Paterson made that nice pass. He drew 4 players to him and then set up Hoglander at the net front there. And that kind of quieted things down really quickly. They had long stretches where they were dominating the play and really kind of hemming it in, but it's against the Philadelphia Flyers. And so they need to be doing that against a club like that. And then, we saw again in the third period, there was a big pushback from Philly. They kind of evened up the shot share. So you're right. It's not perfect. Not everybody's clicking. Miller obviously is battling something. Paterson is battling his own demons. The defense core is still kind of up in the air. I did like what I saw from Brandstrom, but you're right. It's still a work in progress. But at this point, they had that little blip at the beginning of the season. Now they're playing 600 hockey. All of a sudden, they're 2-2, and that's a fine spot to be in. They got a game in Chicago, which is very winnable, and then you come home for a little stretch too. So I think they're heading in the right direction, anyways, on that trajectory. But there's still lots to clean up.
What did you like out of Brandstrom?
Is that a new pairing, Brandstrom Darnay?
I think it'll be for the short term anyways. He brings that element that we've been talking about, right? He is able to wheel, right? He can move the puck with his feet. He can get creative. He can break pressure on retrievals. He can make an outlet pass. He's kind of like President's Choice Quinn Hughes a little bit, right? The no-name brand. And so that the defense core they need something like that. They need a player that can move the play up ice in a hurry and make things happen and be a little creative. I think that it would be interesting to have him slide over to the right side, which he has done a fair amount in his career, and give him even a look up there with Susie. But I think at this point, you kind of it's working on that third pair, and that's what they'll stick with for now.
Those decadent cookies from PC are not bad though.
Not bad, yeah.
You know, if that's what he is,
the high end PC stuff,
it's delicious.
Yeah.
Höglander, Nils. At this time last year, Cam, you might remember we were wondering, will he ever be a healthy scratch again? And sure enough, he was once in the regular season and then again in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But against Florida, he placed 1637 even strength. That's the most he had played since his breakout season. You may remember the North Division bubble of 2021. That's the most he's played at even strength. He comes back and he plays nearly 14 minutes at even strength against Philadelphia. Do you think he's out of Tocchet's doghouse permanently? Are we now looking at Nils Höglander and asking a similar question to what we were last year, and that is he going to be taking a regular shift? Is he going to be playing significant minutes 5-on-5? What do you think?
I think so. I think he is fully won Rick Tocchet over, and Tocchet spoke about that too, right? The preparation that he's putting in, on the ice early at practice, staying late, working on things. He's got pro habits. He needed kind of a kick in the butt there when he got sent back down, when it looked like he was already going to be an established NHLer. And I think that was tough for him. And then to find his wheels and come back up and, like you said, kind of deal with that in and out of the lineup a little bit, finding his minutes cut, not getting any power play time. But at this point, it certainly seems like he is, he's definitely out of the doghouse. Maybe he's in the garage and he's just trying to work his way. It's a heated garage. He's trying to get himself right in there in the master bedroom at the foot of the bed, right? That's a plum spot. So you got to really get it up there. So he's going to have to generate a lot more offense for that too. But again, he's a type of player we talk about all the time, is that he has kind of everything going for him, where he's got the grit, he's got the skill, he's got some playmaking. Now we're starting to see he has those pro habits, and he's still 23 years old. So there's lots of upside left in this player. And I do think that he's inching his way into becoming, on the fringes of being a core member of that forward group.
Do they need to go down to the farm anytime soon to get some help if injuries continue to be an issue? If guys are playing at less than 100%, should they go and get somebody?
Well, Ratu, right? It's especially if Miller's not taking draws. He did. I think that was like a really big boost for Ratu, is that he was winning so many draws in the preseason, and he looked really strong in camp. And they don't have a lot of guys that can win on that right side. It was really interesting to see Besser taking those draws, and someone that they've talked about previously being someone that could potentially be someone who takes those draws, because he's strong. He has quick hands, and he won a few against Philly there. So I don't think we'll see Ratu right away, because I think Miller is, I saw right before I jumped on here that he was at morning skate. So he's a horse, right? It's going to take a lot to keep him out of the lineup. But if he can't take draws, that is going to be a bit of an issue, especially if Besser, if he can only win 30% or something like that, then that's not going to be attainable for long. So this could be the opportunity that Ratu needs to get back into the lineup. But as of right now, short term, I think they just stick with what's working.
Miller slightly above 61% this year. Ratu slightly under 61%. And then Paterson, Bluger, Oman all under 50%, although Elias is close to 49, Bluger at 48.7. We've kicked this around this week. Do draws help you win hockey games? Winning draws help you win hockey games? How important are face-offs now that we have all the analytical data to crunch on them?
Yeah. So when I was playing, and it was always like banged in, like the draws are very important, right? You got to win that defensive zone draw so you can get the puck. You got to get out. You got to win that offensive zone draw so you can maintain possession. But at the end of the day, it's a puck battle, right? And there are hundreds of puck battles all over the ice throughout the game, and you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, and you're going to have to adjust from there. Now, as we saw with Sherwood with that face-off win and goal the other night, is that they can lead to great opportunities for you or for the other team if it's a clean win, or if, the winger doesn't break through to the point and lets that guy come through. So there are opportunities there where it can be a puck battle in a nice spot for a team rather than deep in a corner. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it's the be all end all. I think that you would love to win 65% of all the draws, because that means you're winning 65% of those puck battles. But if you're coming out in a wash at 50-50, I think that's still, it's fine.
Similar question on hits, because Kiefer Sherwood has had him a week here. 10 hits against Florida, 9 hits against Philadelphia. Analytics has also brought that into view for us, Cam. What do you think? How strongly do hits correlate with winning?
I'm still a bit old school on that. Give me hits over faceoff wins, especially because they can be momentum changing too, right? When a guy is flying in there and he's laying out defenders on the forecheck, catch a big open ice hit. Those get the energy flowing for the team and on the bench, and everybody kind of gets moving. And that's the type of hockey we see in the playoffs, right? Is that, things will kind of slow up and guys won't lay the body as much when we're playing in December and January and February. But come April, May, like everybody's hitting, right? Your star players are hitting, your fringe players are hitting. Like it's part of the game, and you see it, and it's that wearing down the opposition too when you're in a 7-game series. So I'm a big proponent of having a physical team, a heavy team, a team that can handle that pressure against and those hits against, but also can dish it out and kind of wear those players down. So for me, I do think that hitting is still an important part of the game to win games as well.
Let me ask you this question. You might have to sit down. Do you have Oliver Ekman-Larsson regret? He had a noticeable game last night. He's been fined for a reverse hit today by the National Hockey League.
Oh, my.
And Leafs fans are coming to his defense as if their favorite player has been suspended for 10 games. He was fined $5,000.
What in the name of Wendell Clark is going on?
Do you miss OEL?
I do not have OEL regret. I have Dylan Guenther regret. How good would that kid look on this team right now, right?
My. Yeah.
No, I think OEL, if you had him at $1 million, then sure, Vancouver could have kept him around. He would have probably been there 3-4 and it would have been just fine, but not at 7.5 or whatever his tag was here in Vancouver. No, it wasn't working. The dollars didn't fit. The player wasn't fitting all that well anyways. No, it's still, as the prospect guy, I got Dylan Guenther regret, and I'll stand up or I'll sit down and I'll say that all over town.
Yeah. And when Florida had him on the cheapy contract, they won a cup. We'll see what happens.
And you wonder, for some players,
Toronto.
is that the wake-up call that player needed to get his career back on track? Like, would this play not have ever happened in a Vancouver Canucks uniform? It's impossible to know, but
it's a good point. Yeah, and you do. Sometimes they need that wake-up call. They get their kind of retirement contract, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I've been traded twice, and they're holding salary back. I'm getting bought out, and it's like my NHL career, it goes by in a flash, too, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden that is, and now he's got a cup, and now he's going to play in Toronto. Like now all of a sudden it's rejuvenated, and he's feeling good about himself. He's got a couple years probably left in the tank now.
He's got 4 years left on his contract.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah.
Good for him. Lived in a big house here in Kitts Point. I'm sure he did pretty well on it on the way out.
Yeah, he did all right on that one. Yeah. Didn't sell low.
Cam, awesome stuff, buddy. Stay dry on the island. We'll catch up next week.
Appreciate it, boys. Take care.
It's happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog, the High Five Hazy IPA.
Some price from the historic Wall Center in this next segment, powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing, new locations opening. You need to get more customers, keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca and see why Square is big in restaurants. Here he is, former executive producer, Hockey Night in Canada, and that's relevant here today.
Mm-hmm.
The most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia, Mr. John Shannon, who is in Edmonton. How are you?
Greetings, boys. Doing great.
Good.
Did you see the column from Jonas Siegel on the Toronto Sports Media blog about Hockey Night in Canada turned boring? John,
I did. Yeah.
Penny, for your thoughts.
Boy, Jonah has always done great work, but the reaction to this one was unbelievable. It was amazing.
Sure was. Penny, for your thoughts.
Well, it's a different landscape than when I ran the show. It's a different landscape than when the guy who really created the show of record, and that was the great late Ralph Mellenby. It's now at a point where there's hockey 7 days a week, and no matter how hard you try, it's difficult to differentiate the days, and that's a challenge. That is truly a challenge. Not to pump our own tires, but we used to view our lives at Hockey Night as the punctuation mark at the end of the sentence. Everything would happen in the hockey world Sunday through Friday, and then let's wait and see what happens on Saturday and how the people at Hockey Night respond. Before I got there as exec, Don Cherry was part of that exclamation mark at the end of the sentence. We added the satellite hot stove to be another punctuation mark at the end of the sentence. I don't know where the sentence ends anymore when it comes to hockey and television, and so I think it puts people in a really difficult position. And the Rogers people who have invested millions and millions of dollars in technology now have the unenviable task of trying to serve all these markets at the same time. It is not easy to do, and that's a real challenge.
I think it's honestly in a lot of cases, and there's people have opinions on personalities on their broadcasts, and that's a part of it. But I wonder if a large part of this is the branding part of it, and that they tune into the regional broadcasts, and it's the blue and red of Sportsnet. They tune in on Saturday, it's the blue and red of Sportsnet. Like it just looks the same, and it just tricks the brain in a lot of ways into thinking there is absolutely nothing to, despite the fact Kevin BX is only there on 1 day a week, there's nothing different in what I'm watching, even though it is. But, I think the aesthetic is a big part of it. Like Prime did a great job last night. And that's what's also kickstarted this conversation this week, is that people are getting more and more of a look at the Prime. It's just a different brand. It's a different look. It's a different set. And I wonder if it's as base as that, John, that, they just see the same, even though the personalities might be different.
Yeah, Blake, there's a point. By the way, it is much easier to do one game on a Monday night, Monday night, than it is to do 5 on a Saturday. And that's the huge challenge. The first intermission of a Saturday night, you feel you're in a position you have to address what happened in the Maple Leaf game, what you address in the Montreal game. You have to address the 2 afternoon games that involve Canadian teams, Ottawa and Edmonton, and then you have to promote the 2 late games. And it is a Rubik's cube to do, and to even think you're going to please one group of hockey fans is difficult when you have 7 in our country, because there are now 7 separate groups of hockey fans in our country. It is a huge challenge. It's an unenviable task in order to try to do that.
It's funny. I watched a fantastic documentary the other day on Netflix about a Harvard professor who wrote a book years ago called Bowling Alone. And the theory was that there are more bowlers, there are just fewer bowling leagues. And he talked about how we have become increasingly isolated, increasingly more detached from our communities, and technology has been a big driver of that. Hockey Night in Canada used to be an event, and it used to be an event because you didn't get all those games during the week. And so because you might root for a certain team, but you're only getting hockey so many nights a week, you would watch the Habs game or you would watch the Leafs game. Whereas these days you're far more likely to just watch your own team, regardless of where they appear on the weekly schedule. So I'm just not sure there's any way to recapture that sense of event that Hockey Night in Canada was back in the day on a Saturday.
I think that might be a simple explanation as anything. When it was Dawn became an event. Dawn was that event, whether you agreed with him, whether you disagree with him, whether you agree with him now or disagree with him now. Don Cherry created that. And let's face it, Don Cherry was an invention of the time at Hockey Night where the Maple Leafs were bad. Pure and simple, the Maple Leafs of the 80s were bad. And we ended up sitting around a boardroom and Mellenby said, we've got to program our intermissions better because the hockey's not going to help us. So you ended up spending a lot more time in programming the intermissions. And again, what we did, and there's another story part of this too, Maddie. We then did the same thing with the satellite hot stove. It had basically Cherry had nothing to do with the games that you were watching, whether you were watching the Montreal game or the Toronto game or the Vancouver game at that point. Same thing for the hot stove. We used to tape the hot stove at 3 p.m. and pray that there was no news. And if there was news, then we had to, juggle balls. The other issue that has become a factor is the doubleheader that started in 1995 has reignited the Toronto Maple Leafs as a national brand. And the whole goal was to give Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton their own teams in their own prime times. And it hasn't worked as effectively as it was once thought to have, because everybody likes watching hockey earlier in the evening. We were trained as kids in your market to watch hockey at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock was when Hockey Night in Canada started. Those are the types of things that have not really changed from viewing habits. It was great in my hometown, Oliver, British Columbia. You'd watch Hockey Night in Canada, then you'd go watch the local high school basketball team after the game. And that was what the traditions were. What has happened now is the Maple Leafs, because they are on every Saturday night at 4 Pacific, every Saturday night, 4 Pacific, the Maple Leafs are on. They have been reignited as a national brand. And I think that might have an adverse effect. And that was long before Rogers took over.
When Rogers first took over Hockey Night in Canada, that Hockey Night in Canada brand lived on, I thought, independently for a few more years.
Despite the move from Ron to Strombo.
Right. Yeah. I almost wonder if they should, it doesn't have to go back to that brand, but I wonder if that helps, if differentiating it, making it look different. I know they use a slightly different set for the Saturday games, but I mean, completely revamp it all so that it looks like a different production. I wonder if you trick a bunch of people into thinking that it's better.
How many games are you doing? Because in the end, guys, what we're talking about is 80% of what fans want is a good game, a good broadcast, and then the 20% is the wrapping paper and the dressing of pre-games and intermissions. And I don't think you'll ever serve all the masters well enough anymore on any night of the week, no matter what network, if you are forced to be doing as many games as people expect to get on those given nights. It's a really tough challenge, trust me, because you're going to piss someone off. Yeah. And by the way, the people who like things, they don't write letters. They don't post, that was really good.
Correct.
They don't phone and compliment. It's only the people that say negative things that get a voice.
Let me ask you this: is Sportsnet producing too much hockey? Like, does the specialness from the executive producer standpoint, is it too much to make anything look special because you're making so much sausage at that point?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Is ESPN producing too much television? I mean, and remember, Sportsnet does
but
more.
That's different brands, right? It's easy to produce a lot of sports television if it's different brands.
The answer is I don't see that. I don't see that as an issue at all. They have enough producers, they have enough studios, they have enough intermission hosts. I don't see that as because one of the reasons is they have created a great deal of strength in Vancouver. in Edmonton, in Calgary, and to a lesser extent in the East, where they don't have near the presence that they have because TSN has the local rights, because they have big personalities. Dan Murphy and John Shorthouse are big personalities. And now the expectation is we want to see Shorty and Murph on Saturday nights. Why can't we see Shorty and Murph? Same thing has happened here at Edmonton. Jack Michaels and Gene Principe. The
tribalism is there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the famous David Hill's famous word that sports is tribal, and that becomes the real issue. So there. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, saying, well, this is bad, because there's lots of really good stuff that gets on the air as well.
We've just always talked about the NFL, Matt, about how you got every network has their own spin, their own different look on the league.
Yeah.
And I think people like that.
But they only have 1 day, then they only have 1 day a week. And that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
But they treat the 32 teams homogenously. And if you want to listen for Dallas Cowboy stuff, then you do listen to local radio. You do listen to the pregame shows on the local affiliates. The problem is hockey fans in our country, they don't want homogeneous. They only want to cheer for their own team. And we're so passionate about the game that really, I mean, if I'm a Canuck fan, I don't want to hear about the Canucks. I don't want to talk about the Canucks. I don't want to hear about Connor McDavid. I don't want to hear about Austin Matthews. I want to hear about, Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. And that's the real, they're the victims of their own success in so many ways, because people just want to devour so much hockey content, but they only want to see it through the eyes of their own team.
Yeah. Well, it's instructive you invoke David Hill. And for those who don't know, he's the former executive producer at Fox Sports, an Aussie who figured out how to deliver the NFL to Americans in a way that, many thought was groundbreaking, revolutionary. I wasn't particularly the biggest fan of the way Fox does it, even to this day. I'm not as big on the John Madden, Terry Bradshaw character types as some others would be, but clearly Fox found a way to deliver the NFL that was different than CBS and NBC and ABC back in the day, and have had extraordinary success. It's also funny, John, that you talk about the Leafs and being so bad as part of the Don Cherry construct, because my family moved from Alberta to Ontario, Ottawa, in the 83-84 season. And my mom tells a story about me showing up at coming up from the basement and wanting to join her dinner party. And she said, son, why aren't you watching the hockey? And I said, because it's 5-0 North Stars over the Leafs at the first intermission. And I'm just done with this, because suddenly I'd become part of the catch-all Leaf territory, right? The Senators didn't exist back then. And so you got a lot of Leafs games. But yeah, the other thing that Jonah points out, though, is innovation, John. We saw it with Prime last night. They're just showing you, with no commentators, no announcers, the whole specter of the pregame buildup to the broadcast and to puck drop. They're turning the cameras on, they're turning the microphones on, and there you go. If you want to join an hour before puck drop, you can see basically the rink and everybody getting ready. I mean, I don't know how many want to watch an empty building slowly fill up. I've certainly seen it many, many times over my life.
That's the world of streaming, though. That's the world of streaming, Matt. Is it different? Sure. I'm one of those guys too, that I tune in 10 minutes before, and then I know most of the people involved in the production. I just pray nobody says something stupid or something happens that they get embarrassed. Right?
But is it an innovation thing with Hockey Night? Like, could they innovate more than what they do?
The wheel is round for a reason. The wheel is pretty good. It's round. Hockey Night in Canada stands for isolated replays, good storytelling, the quality of the pictures. I would tell you that there's a tradition at Hockey Night that has to be upheld without compromising the most important things. I want to see the puck go in the net. I want to hear my announcer say he shoots, he scores. And then I want to be told why the puck went in the net. That's it. Those are to me, that's hockey night. To me, that is exactly what has to happen. Other people who haven't been around since 1952, other people can take the risks. Hockey night's one of those things that you can't take the risk. I joke about this a ton of times. You know, hockey night has made changes over the years, but the changes have always been gradual, Matt. And you know, we lived in a country called that had a political party called the Progressive Conservatives. Think about it, the Progressive Conservative. You know,
Blake was mentioning that the other day, actually.
When you talk to people and say, well, before the doubleheader, and people say hockey night always have a doubleheader? Well, no, but
no.
Isn't that innovation? You know, when we went to the overhead clock or the overhead camera above the net, we were the first ones to do that. When after Doug Beforth put them in the goals in Lillehammer, Norway, Hockey Night in Canada were the ones who brought it to North America to put net cams in. Super Slow-Mo came to hockey the first time around on Hockey Night in Canada. The digital replay system called EVS came to
Hockey Night used to innovate, is what I'm hearing, John. And while I appreciate your opinion, and frankly, I probably share it because I'm more nostalgic as well. You know, saying Hockey Night can innovate to me is kind of like what the New York Times did back in the day. We're like, wow, we're the venerable New York Times. People will always come to us. And then all of a sudden learn, no, wait a second. Even from your elevated post, you got to innovate if you're going to make it in this new technology.
And I think that I think the use of wireless microphones and IFBs on players in warm-ups, which Hockey Night has done for the last few years. I haven't seen it this year, but they've done it before. I just, right now I think it's easy pickings to pick on Hockey Night. I think it's easy because it's the flavor. Usually there's a flavor of the week or a flavor of the month. Right now we're going to pick on Hockey Night because Hockey Night doesn't serve my market as well as my local guys do.
And in fairness, John, when ESPN, TNT, and now Amazon Prime have all onboarded to the National Hockey League, there is very much a compare and contrast juxtaposition exercise that I think the hockey fan participates in, and rightfully so, because you've got new programming there, and you say, okay, well, what makes it similar or different than what I'm used to?
I forget your answer.
And to do, not to beat a dead horse, but to do one single game with one pregame show.
For sure.
One arena. Wow.
Just reiterate. I think you've told us recently, but just reiterate on the new deal, the new TV deal. Is it both networks or is it just Rogers?
What I'm sorry?
On the next national rights deal, is it both networks or is it just
and Prime? He thinks.
Is it just
I'm
more
not mistaken?
Well, I fully expect, and this is my personal opinion. I expect to see national games on Bell, national games on Rogers, and national games on a streaming service. I think we're going that way, and we should get used to it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Frozen Frenzy? 16 games, only time this year all 32 teams are playing on the same day, 7.5 hours of continuous hockey, staggered start times with an ESPN triple header.
Well, the other side of that is that I wondered why we only had one game Monday and one game Wednesday. Because we got 16 games on Tuesday. So that's one aspect to look at. Listen, if you're trying to create opportunities on the news cycle to have some fun with it, try it every once in a while. Just don't affect the outcome of games. And I think it's worth a chance. There's I got to remember my numbers. There's more than 1,300 regular season games. We shouldn't make too much of a night with 16.
I don't know why they wouldn't do this on a weekend as well, though. And I know you got way more competition, but
because everybody wants home games. Everybody wants home games on weekends, Blake.
Yeah.
And if you do 16, you're not going to put teams 3 games in 3 nights. So you got
Friday and Sunday are compromised.
Friday and Sunday become tremendously compromised.
Yeah.
Like Monday and Wednesday.
Post NFL season, do it on a Sunday then. Everybody can play on Friday as well.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Yeah,
Everything I think with the way that the networks are, because they're creative, trying to create opportunities too. I think everything's up for discussion.
What I've learned on this hit is we should lock Shannon and Price in a room and have them come out with a new model for presenting hockey.
I'm game. I think that between the two of us, we can figure this out. I agree.
The wheel is still round.
It's still round.
Progressive conservative.
That's my. I tell my American friends that story, Blake, all the time, and they look at me and they think about it. Progressive conservatives. Okay.
Yeah. Although some of the things Mulrooney did were in fact progressive that like no conservative would take on in today's day and age.
And I'm not talking anything about BC politics today. So
Hey. We'll let you know here in a week or so how it turned out, John. Thanks for this. Catch up next Tuesday.
Yep.
Happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day, Yellow Dog Squirrel Chaser Hazy Pale Ale. Some price from the Historic Wall Center. You can text us 778-402-9680. Email live at sekeresandprice.com. All to the Great Clips inbox. Great Clips.
It's going to be great.
Okay, so what can you tell me about the Whitecaps going into the do or die wild card match in Portland against the Timbers at Providence Park?
Well, yeah, it's they're up against it a little bit, but they're going to have a lot of their best bodies there. They're going to throw everything they can at the wall and then hope that they can actually get this home playoff date back into their back pocket. So, yeah, they head down to Portland today. Kickoff will be 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. It's live and it's for free on MLS Season Pass and Apple TV, by the way. It's also on TSN. The winner of the wildcard match then advances to the round one stage versus LAFC with the best of three series beginning on Sunday and going through to the next couple of weekends if they can force a game 3 or win it in 2, I suppose is an option as well. But playoff tickets for round 1 will be on sale shortly if the Whitecaps win their wild card match on Wednesday. So as listeners, you can get into the pre-sale texting CAPS to 604-305-4530. That's CAPS to 604-305-4530. And for more information, visit whitecapsfc.com. I hope if they do their part, if the players do their part and win the wild card match, I hope the fans can really show up and make the home playoff date all the more worthwhile. Pack the joint and show that they've overcome the robbery of this home playoff date, which is too bad.
It was a 1-1 draw with the Timbers at BC Place less than a month ago, September 28th. The Caps got a 3-2 victory over the Timbers back in March at BC Place. We talked about yesterday how their overall record versus the Timbers is not very good, and they lost 2-0 at Providence Park in June. So 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss versus the Timbers.
Again, it should be a firecracker of a match. Portland only plays those. They do not know how to defend. In fact, they've got a couple of players that are spectacular offensively. But it's almost, and this is almost Neville's words, Phil Neville's word, like it's like he's playing with one less guy defensively. So, there are opportunities to score, but they're going to probably give up a couple too. So it's just who makes the fewest mistakes defensively, and it should be a lot of fun on Wednesday.
As for this game not being at BC Place, we learned that MLS forbids playoff games at non-MLS venues. So all the different options here in the Lower Mainland or the island would not have been considered by MLS. Now, I'm still struggling with why this game couldn't be played Tuesday when that's when the MLS Eastern wildcard game featuring CF Montreal is going down. Like, could you not have flipped them? Could you have not played both on the same day, given you would have had an Eastern and a Pacific time zone starts?
There is reporting that was asked about, but there was opposition from some entity, and I don't know what the entity was. Maybe because apparently the track for Supercross doesn't go down until tomorrow. So, but maybe BC Place had another reason why they said no. Maybe MLS said no. Maybe Apple TV didn't want 2 games on at the same time. I don't know. But
And look, you and I have both had long experience with BC Place. It can be very difficult and bureaucratic, but it's in the business of booking dates, and it's got an obligation to the public to book dates and make the stadium as financially viable as possible for the BC taxpayer. Let's remember, this is a publicly owned and operated facility. Supercross booked 18 months ago. And if you're sitting there at BC Place, a bird in the hand is better than holding that date for the possibility the Whitecaps could be in a wild card match that never comes. So I don't begrudge them for that. Now, of course, there was also a world where the Caps would have had home pitch advantage in the next round. Now, Supercross goes till Saturday. There are games scheduled Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, game ones in round two for MLS. So I imagine the Caps would have had to have played on one of those days had that been the case. The other thing that I'm wondering about is Supercross is a one-day event on Saturday. They need 3 days of stadium preparation.
It's a hell of an outfit.
It's a lot of dirt, I understand, but that's a hell of a business model. We need to rent your stadium for 4 days, but we're only selling tickets to 1 day and one event. Hey, more power to you, Supercross.
By the way, a couple other questions were answered from errors and omissions, if you will, for yesterday about the will they get any home benefits at Providence Park? Vanny said, no. I don't think we have any benefits. We were actually thinking about the Timber Joey guy, having him on our side as the home team, but I don't think that's going to happen. And the other thing to remember about tomorrow, it goes straight to penalties.
Yes.
Your life in the MLS Cup playoffs.
Straight to
pins.
And I heard Vanny musing about how they've practiced penalties here.
Yeah, which they did before Leagues Cup too, because it has the same rules.
Right.
So, yeah.
Boy, took a beating in the NFL yesterday on my Bet365 picks. Tampa loses to Baltimore, and worse yet, they lose both receiver Chris Godwin and receiver Mike Evans to injury here. Godwin for the year. I'm not sure you saw him on the cart, but incredible attitude, incredible mindset. He was seen mouthing back to hard work or something of that order and didn't even seem to be acknowledging the pain of a dislocated ankle. He'll have surgery. Arizona wins back-to-back games for the first time with Kyler Murray at the controls since 2021, Blake.
Wow.
And now he's been hurt some, but still. And look, that is a result that went against the Seahawks. But the NFC West is Seattle's to lose, baby. After that win in Atlanta, they are 4-3. They lead both the 49ers and Cardinals by a game. They lead the Rams by a game and a half. And I say that, you're saying, whoa, wait a second, what about San Francisco? They just lost the big Super Bowl rematch to Kansas City.
Injuries, my goodness.
Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver, who, of course, wanted to be traded, was holding, torn ACL, done for the year. Poor Deebo Samuel has pneumonia and is in hospital. Juwan Jennings, another receiver, hip injury. George Kittle, their fine tight end, sprained foot. Jordan Mason, the running back revelation who exploded out of nowhere, he's got a sprained AC joint. Of course, Christian McCaffrey, the all-everything running back, with an Achilles.
Now, Samuel, I can say
Samuel he'll be back and he'll be fine. But
depending on how bad your pneumonia gets, it takes you a while to get your lungs back. So I'm just looking ahead, Seahawks, 49ers in 2 weeks. Do they have to face Deebo Samuel? I don't know. I don't think so.
And this thing. That's just the injuries on offense.
Yeah, right.
But it's got people wondering, is the 49ers window closed? Is that? Because unlike Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, who can see guys go down all around him, they do not have the dynamic, make everybody better quarterback in Brock Purdy. Love what he's done engineering that offense for Shanahan, but he's just not an equivalent to Mahomes or Josh Allen or some of that. No, absolutely not. So it's right there for you. Seattle, Geno Smith, new head coach Mike McDonald. You should be able to win this division now.
The 49ers, it's not like they've had a road heavy schedule either. They've already played 4 at home, so they've got no ace up their sleeve really either.
Yeah.
It'll be tough.
NBA season starts tonight. There are 22 Canadians on NBA rosters to open the year. 23 if you count Chris Duarte, who's a Canadian-born but plays internationally for the Dominican Republic. That's actually down, Blake, from 26 last year. There's a number of Canadians who were on NBA rosters at the beginning of last year or matriculated into the NBA over the course of the season who are not there on anymore. Josh Primo, O'Shea Brissett, AJ Lawson, Eugene Omoruyi, Charles Bidiaco, and Lindell Wigington. So we were up to 28 players at one point last year in the NBA. Going to start with 22 again, 23 if you count Duarte's Canadian-born.
Did we lose any promising guys? Any promising looking players?
Well, I mean, at one point, Primo had a lot of prospect. He was drafted high by San Antonio in part because he was really young. Coming out of Alabama, he was a one-and-done guy in Alabama. People thought that he could be a superb defender. He's an excellent athlete and that the offense might come. But no, I mean, everyone else there, I think, is sort of more a bit player. Bediaco has a chance as an interior defender.
We get to see how Zach Edey develops this year.
And Edey's had a great preseason for the Memphis Grizzlies. Anticipate he's going to be in the rotation, if not starting a number of games for them. We also, the reporting is that you are going to see right out of the chute here, the father-son combination on the floor at some point tonight for the LA Lakers, LeBron James and his son Bronny, and also saw that Vince Carter, fresh off his National Basketball Hall of Fame induction, and, of course, his jersey retirement with the Toronto Raptors is going to be a part of the broadcast on a select number of Sportsnet games this year.
On Braun and Bronny, did you see the Griffies are going to be in attendance to watch?
Oh, are they? Oh,
yes.
Good for them. That's awesome.
Yeah,
well done. Of course, Ken Griffey Sr. with the Seattle Mariners once upon a time. Poll question results from Monday. Do you have faith that Kevin Lankinen can keep this up? Yes or no, Blake? What did the people say?
They said yes.
Indeed. Percentage?
68.
87.
Oh, wow.
Sheldon, I think you can keep up some solid play, but not these current numbers, of course. Hockey Tune says, yes, he's playing for a much bigger contract, super motivated. He even said it in his post-game interview, using this opportunity to showcase his skills. He picked the Canucks because of the opportunity and defensive system of the team. He's going to take advantage of these starts. And then David says, in general, yes, will he have a bad game? Of course, but I think he will bounce back and have more good games than bad. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. We've addressed the Supercross track going in on Wednesday. Also, when we had Adnan Verk on last week, I said he would be hosting Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey bi-weekly. He informs it's going to be more than that. He's going to do the majority of the games. Andy Petrello is going to do a smaller number of games. Anything to self-report?
No.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you connecting, spending some time with us. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We're live on many of those platforms. Noon Pacific weekdays, and of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking
Watch Rink Wide tonight.
Keep it local. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.